Let's move to item 12.
Mr. Chairman, under item 12, we're providing for you a resolution expressing the board's intent to place a county charter regional system surtax referendum on the November 4, 2014 ballot.
Thank you, Councilor and Commissioners. We have quite a few folks who want to speak to this, so unless there are any questions at this point, I'd like to move to hear from the citizens. I will ask one question on the lawsuit that was filed last week seeking to block us from voting today. Can you speak to that, Council?
There has been no hearing set for this item, and you are free to vote. We'll keep you posted, but I checked just before we came in here, and there's been no change.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to hearing from the public on this. We'll hear from supporters first. You'll be given 3 minutes.
I've seen the development and the near gridlock that is occurring here. There's many reasons we need improved public transportation, too many to list here, but I think anyone who drives here knows this is true. And I'd like to share one fact I learned, that light rail will take up 2 lanes of space but carry 6 lanes worth of people.
I am completely in support of the allowing the citizens to vote on this. I am personally in support of the referendum, opinion as well. But even for people that aren't in support of it, I can't imagine really a firm, logical, strong argument on why you wouldn't want us to have this conversation about it, why you wouldn't want the will of the people to be heard. I think it's safe to say we all value the First Amendment and the freedom of speech, and includes that freedom to have that dialogue.
Have you checked the California Rail? It is way over budget. The same thing will plague such an effort in our county.
I came all the way from Brandon, actually, to be a part of this. And I would be what is known as a choice rider for transit. I have a car. I could have drove here, but I chose to ride the bus. And also give the people who are on the lower tiers of the social ladder the opportunity to move up. Because with this referendum, they'll be able to do that. Most of them can't afford to drive, but if they can ride a bus and they can get a better job, they can be more productive in society and society will benefit from that.
And the one thing I come away with is, have you really thought how this tax increase is going to affect people on the low end of the spectrum? And then the elderly? This to me is a big thing. Taxation is easy for those in power when they want to do it.
Be here. I'm not a resident of Pinellas County. I'm a resident of Hillsborough County, but I want this to happen in Tampa Bay, and I had the opportunity this past December 7th, 8th, and 9th to visit a city and experience their transit system, which is almost a clone of what we want to do here. And it's up in Minneapolis. They have a lower population density than we do, and their system was built in the last 10 years, and it was great. For one ticket, I got there early because I wanted to explore around. Never been to Minneapolis, so I got off the plane within a half hour. I was on light rail for one ticket. I went south, went to the Mall of America just so I could say I'd see it. Then I got back on. I went up to Minneapolis, about 12 miles north. Again, on the same ticket, got off, got on a bus, same ticket, got within 2 blocks, and didn't have to wait more than 15 minutes for the bus. Went to within 2 blocks of where I was staying. And it was great. So to experience that, especially right before all this was coming out here, was great. So I want to see this happen. If you guys can put it on the ballot and pass here, then we'll be able to do it right this time in Hillsborough and get it there. So especially after having experience set up in Minneapolis. I
looked at the 2013 budget for PSTA, and their budget, they have budgeted to spend $95 million in 2013. That's operating and capital costs. Out of that $95 million, $15 million are returned by the people who ride the buses and the people who advertise on the buses, leaving taxpayers with an $80 million liability. And of course, some of that money is, like Barb said, it's free money from Washington. People have come up here and talked about how wonderful it is to ride the rails in Charlotte and Minneapolis. I would like to point out that I did some studies on light rails around the country. The Charlotte light rail system currently costs taxpayers $15 per trip for each person that gets on the light rail, who's paying about $2. And in Minneapolis, there was a gentleman here who thought the system in Minneapolis was really nice. It is, I'm sure it is, because the taxpayers are supporting it to the tune of $21 per ride.
My name is Frank Jackalone. I live in St. Petersburg at 1863 Lakewood Drive South. I am the Florida Staff Director of the Sierra Club. So I'm going to tell 3 quick short stories. The first is that I've been in lived in St. Pete for a little more than 15 years. I moved here in 1997. In 96, I lived in Atlanta during the Olympics. And my wife and I went to the Olympics, to several Olympic events, and they shut down downtown Atlanta completely. You couldn't bring your car in to the Olympic venue.
I'm opposing this, being brought forward for a vote today for a lot of the reasons that all have been stated, and I want to state that right up front. But before I get into why and some other things, I would like to refute the gentleman that came forward. I think he was from a district Sierra Club fellow, you know, and in 1996, my husband and I were living in Mississippi. I'm from St. Pete. I started riding the bus in 1947. So I've been around a long time and around this area a long time, and really have an appreciation for mass transit. But my dad was an alternate in the Olympics in 1936 in Germany. He never got to go, but I drove from Gulfport, Mississippi, down here to St. Pete, picked him and my mother up, went up to Atlanta, and I took my dad to that Olympics because he wanted to see Olympics before he died. And I will tell you, I drove right up to the Olympics. They did not shut down the city of Atlanta from cars for the Olympics. I just want to make that clear.
My name is Tim Martin. I'm the Vice President of the Council of Neighborhood Associations in St. Petersburg. And I'm here today to express my support for adding a sales tax referendum to the ballot in 2014 without any delay. Pro-transit supporters have given hundreds of public comments urging the PSTA and now the County Commission to move forward with plans to expand mass transit. The public deserves a right to vote on this issue, and I urge you allow that to happen in 2014. Let's make the decision right now to get out of last place in the nation and stop being the only metro area in the country without viable mass transit. Let's say yes to transit village economic development opportunities that will fuel smarter growth and make our region more attractive for professionals and employers that hire them. Let's say yes to reducing our dependence on fossil fuels. Let's say yes to making it easier to attend a Rays game. Let's say yes to giving all people in our county, regardless of the ability to own a car, the affordable and convenient transit options they need. Give us the chance to vote.
You know that I'm opposed to this referendum, not because I don't want to have people vote, but because of the details. I don't believe the details are ready to put a referendum forward. I beg to differ with some of the people that have spoke that this is about light rail. It may be about other things, but it certainly is about light rail. And I would question why is there so much emphasis on light rail? I know that for a lot of people they like it, but I would offer that maybe there's some other options that are on the table. Maybe some other forms to look at. I think that it'd be a great idea to have the people look at it, but I don't think by putting a regulation or a referendum up first and then having them look is the way to go. I'd say with respect to with the economy, I don't think light rail drives economy. I think less regulations and less taxes do. We can have a discussion about that, but I think that that's more of the kind of thing that would bring business here. And I would just question what's the speed to which this has to go on a referendum right now? There's some uncertainty about some of the commission members as to their status, and the actual, from what I understand, wording of the referendum doesn't have to be done until next summer. So I would say, why rush this thing through? So I appreciate you giving me the time to.
23 years old. I was born in Morton Plant. I've lived in this area my entire life. I went over to USF I'm done now and I've moved back to Palm Harbor. I am unfortunately working as a waitress right now. I have not been able to get a job in this area, even with a degree. And one of the things that I have unfortunately had to start doing is looking out of state, looking to move out of this area, because there's not jobs and there's not infrastructure in place to make it comfortable for me to be able to live over here and travel back and forth to Tampa. It's very inconvenient. And I spend a lot of time in Tampa and over here. When I was over there, I was always here. So it's one of those things that for me, as a lifelong resident of Tampa, I hate that I'm having to look to move elsewhere just because I feel like Tampa doesn't offer me enough anymore. I've always loved living here, but I'm at the point now where I've really genuinely started looking to Chicago and New York and all sorts of other places that have that system in place so that I could, I'm 23, I like to go out at night. I don't want to drive. I want to have a nice, comfortable system that I could get home. The bus system here, not real great, so if I wanted to go out, I have to take a cab, and that's $30, $40 to get home. I'm trying to be responsible, but I feel like that's one of those things that could really help people in my age and people older than me that are trying to make those kind of reasonable decisions and enjoy themselves, enjoy this beautiful city we live in that has lots to do for people at night. And I could really see that being a positive thing to bring to this area. So, thank you.
Thank you.
On Clearwater Beach, and my biggest concern with what is being presented today is the foresight and the planning, the vision that I would hope that everybody would see, because we do need to make forward changes. We need that. But what we don't need is more mistakes, and Pinellas County has enough mistakes. As people are complaining about people leaving because lack of jobs, you all know my husband. His name is Jim Thaler, and you can contact him, and he can tell you about the lack of jobs in Pinellas County, and it's not because we don't have light rail. It's because we don't have the support and the planning.
Many others came across the bay from Hillsborough. I've lived in Pinellas before, and most of my professional career I've worked in Pinellas. So, I feel like I have a skin in the game too. I'm also the vice president of the Young Democrats at Hillsborough. Public transit is not a Democratic or Republican issue. It's a common sense issue. It's pro-business. It's pro-job growth. I'm here to talk about a lot what Britton talked about, which is job opportunities for young people in Tampa Bay. We are severely lacking behind many other major cities in that regard. I know just the last couple months alone, I've had 4 close friends move out of the Tampa Bay area to other cities because they didn't have the job opportunities here for them. We're talking about not just low wage, no benefits jobs, which we seem to have plenty of. We're talking about good jobs for college educated graduates and for higher paying wages. These are people who didn't want to move out of here. I know I moved down here at 20 years old and I fell in love with Tampa Bay. I really do love it here. And I would love to see our community make improvements where it needs to. And one of those areas is public transit. Because the truth is businesses don't want to relocate here because we don't have this infrastructure.
As people are complaining about people leaving because lack of jobs, and it's not because we don't have light rail.
Thank you very much. Kevin Thurman, Executive Director of Connect Tampa Bay. That is that this is one of the 25th worst place to buy a car. It says specifically in a study done that people around here can afford to spend about $15,000 on a new vehicle, but because of insurance rates and everything else like that, it costs $30,000 to do it. So if we're going to be economically competitive, we're going to allow people to move up. They need to be able to have a transportation system that can get them to that job or that second job so that they can move up. If we want people to pick up from their bootstraps, we need to have the ability to get them to do it. Because right now, if you wanted to get that second job and earn your living, you can't get to it unless you bought a car, unless you go deep in debt and lose personal responsibility. I think the important thing that you need to remember is this conversation is vital. And anybody who would try to shut it down and say it should be stopped today or file a lawsuit to do so isn't taking this conversation seriously.
I have nothing against buses. I'm just against the light rail. I am here on behalf of the taxpayers since I am one. It would be a burden to the taxpayers. I went to the last PSTA meeting when they threatened to decrease bus service if the taxpayers didn't come forward with a public-private partnership agenda. The PSTA would rather risk our taxpayers' money than risk their own. PSTA will do a much better job if they use their own money and not ours for their business ventures. I pay enough taxes, and I don't want to pay any more. I want to open a bookstore on Central Avenue. I would like the taxpayers to give me money to open my store. Books will benefit the community. By the way, we are not Europe, and a tax is not an investment. Thank you.